Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it's all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Well, hello, friend. Welcome back to another episode of the EntreMD podcast. And today we're going to be talking about something that is really one of my favorite things, and that is setting up your business to exit, okay? And there are a number of reasons why this is one of my favorite things. When I look in Facebook groups, a lot of times people say, well, there is this doctor who's retiring, he wants to sell his practice, and he's asking for, I'm making up the number, $500,000. And the number of people who come out and like, private practices are not worth anything, just go set up shop right next to him or her, and things like that. And so there is this thing of private practices, our businesses not being worth anything. And there are reasons why that could be true, but it's also a pointer that maybe it's time for us to think about it differently. Now, I was fortunate enough to be exposed to this concept really early in my practice. Must have been the first 2 to 4 years. And I met this lady who was a pediatrician, had her own practice for decades. She was nearing retirement. She wanted to sell it and be done. And she was only asking for $40,000. I want you to think about it. Only $40,000. And she could not find anybody to buy it. Her broker came to my practice and said, hey, she's selling this practice, it's $40,000, said all the good things about it. And so I went with my husband to go see the practice, but she was the only doctor there. They were still on paper charts. They did not own the real estate. They didn't have a long lease either. They were coming up on a renewal. She did not have systems in place. She owned her job. And so even though that would have been a steal, I mean, $40,000 for a practice, but I had to decline. Like, I didn't take her up on the offer, and she went on to shut down the practice. She wasn't able to sell it. And I want you to think about something you've worked really hard on for decades. And at the end of the day, yes, of course, it paid you while you were working in it, but then to walk away with nothing, it really got me thinking. And I had already started thinking differently about my practice, but that really got me thinking. Like, you want to think about the end from the beginning, right? And then I went on at an event. I met this lady who is a banker for individuals who are ultra high net worth. And ultra high net worth, by their definition, was people who had a net worth greater than 25 million. Okay. And she started talking about how most of the people came to their money, to their ultra high net worth. And she said for most of her clients, it was through a monetization event. So they sold a business. Okay. So they sold a business And because of that, they hit this ultra high net worth. And so I'm thinking, well, other people are selling businesses and getting to ultra high net worth. And we are creating businesses that cannot be sold for anything, not even $40,000. Like people are crossing 25 million in net worth because they sold a business. Do you see the discrepancy? And so for me, I was like, wow, we really need to start thinking about our businesses differently and really need to start building them as businesses that we plan to exit from. And the truth of the matter is we are going to exit one way or another. If you think about it, nobody's going to be alive 150 years from now. You know what I mean? And so if your business is going to go on, if it's going to continue, is because of things you put in place now, but you are going to leave your business. Even if you don't put a plan in place, when you're done with your time on earth and you leave, you would have exited the business. So we're going to exit one way or another. And so if we're going to take the time to think about our retirement when we're young, if we're going to take the time, like as soon as our kids are born, we start putting college funds together and all of those things. If we're going to do that, then we also want to think that way about our businesses. Like we want to think about the end from the beginning. You might be like, Dr. Una, I just hit 2 million in revenue this year and things are good. And I cannot even conceptualize that. And I'm trying to figure out my team at work, all these things. And this is the deal. Okay. We want to set the foundation for that now. If we set the foundation for that now, then we have options later. Entrepreneurship is too hard for us to just go at it and not make any plans to have a return on investment. Okay. And I'm gonna unpack some of this. Okay. I'm gonna unpack some of this. So if you're building a business, well, you're listening to me, so you're building a successful business. But as you build the business, if you're gonna go through the work of doing that, then I just want you to think like you have the option of building something that's a well-oiled machine that you can pass on to your family. And that is your way of maybe even creating a monetization event for them, right? That's your way of transferring wealth from you to the next generation. Or you may decide I just want to sell it and create your own monetization event. Or you shut it down. But guess what? It's still going to cost you money to shut it down, right? But it's just so heartbreaking, right? For us to have to do that. So let's talk about these foundations, right? And I just, this is really like a broad way of looking at it. But I want to talk about 5 things you want to start putting in place in your business from this moment. Okay. If you don't have it already, from this moment. Okay. And the overarching thought is you want to start treating your business as a product, not a service. Okay. So there is the service. So let me bring this all the way home, make it a practical example. There is a service. So in my private practice, we have the service aspect of it. So we take care of patients, we do all of those things. But there is the product, which is the pediatric practice. That is a product. Now, my job is to see that as a product, to see it as a business asset, to build in the foundations, to work on the valuation of that. In that product is the service that we offer. Okay. EntreMD, the EntreMD Business School, it is a service. What do? We help doctors build profitable multiple 7-figure businesses so they have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on their terms. That is the service. But there's also the product. The business school is a product, and I need to work on the valuation of that product, right? So think about it. I deliver a service, but the business is a product. Okay. So in the service angle, I take care of my clients, I take care of my patients, I do all of that. But in the product, I work on making that more valuable. I make sure that it's created as an asset. So it is an asset that I can keep and pass on if I want. I can sell it if I want, right? So we want to make that distinction. And even if your business is a product-based business, you have the products that provides a service or like an outcome for your clients, but there's also the business that is a product, right? So we want to start looking at our businesses as products, as assets, because that's what they are, okay? All right. So your job, there is the job of providing a service, but there's a job that belongs to you, the owner, the CEO, the founder, and that is the job of working on the valuation of that product. Okay. You're going to say, what do I need to do to put this business asset, this product in a position where it can sell at the best possible rate if I were going to sell it? And you might say, I'm not thinking of selling. I started working on this process from the second year in my private practice. We've been in practice for 14 years. Until this moment, I am not looking at selling. But this is the deal. Okay. I heard Dr. Ronke Dosumo say this. She said, a business worth selling is a business worth keeping. Okay, so at the end of the day, this process only makes your overall business so much better anyway. So you have absolutely nothing to lose. And when you're ready to sell, it is too late to get ready to sell. It is a multi-year process to put all of these things in place. So when you're ready to sell, it's too late. So the time to prepare is now. The time to start working on this is now. Okay. So let me give you 5 things you want to think about. Okay. When you think of how do I increase the valuation of my product, of my business? Okay. What are the things? Number 1 is building a dominant brand and brand assets. Okay. So we want to pay attention to the brand. In the EntreMD Business School, I talk about this a lot. In fact, in EBS Scale, which is a tier for doctors doing $1 million in revenue and more, we talk a lot about building your 8-figure brand. Okay. Now, so first of all, your brand goes with you wherever you go, but the company brand is what will sell the product for years and years, or as a service for years and years after you're gone. It's what gets market share. It's what makes you the desired one to buy, and all of those things. Like, you want to have that. And the more pieces you have in place that can lead to the continued success of the business, the more you can get for the business. So for example, let's say you have a private practice and you have a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel has a really good following. In fact, it has such a good following that you have ads running on it and you have revenue coming from that. And on the YouTube channel, you talk about the practice and people should go make an appointment and all of those things. Those are all evergreen. Like, they're the gift that will keep giving and giving and giving and giving. So they factor it into the valuation. I've had friends who did exits. I had a friend who did an exit and she had a podcast, and the podcast had 200 episodes of her promoting the business. Now, she kept the podcast. She didn't even add it to the sale, but because they had this evergreen marketing and it was it had a lot of subscribers and people were listening and all of that, it affected the valuation of her business. And so having a YouTube channel, podcast, blog, long form content that is strategic content, meaning it's promoting the business and all of that stuff, that is something that will help the valuation. You cannot create 200 episodes when you're ready to sell. You create all of that now, like you start now. So that's one. Another one you can look at is an email list, right? So you've been building this email list. You have an email list of 100,000 subscribers. Okay. 30,000 subscribers. That is huge, right? Because that means you have all of these people. I mean, they're there. It's not like social media. You have them, right? So that affects the valuation, right? Think about endorsements, awards, all of those. Those are all for positioning, but put together, the bigger the brand, the more dominant the brand of the business, the better for you. Okay. And again, it's not something you're going to build when you start, when you're ready to sell. It's something you're going to start building now. This is why, again, in the EntreMD Business School, I start pushing, start speaking, start doing videos, launch the YouTube channel, launch the podcast, start building this body of work, right? Because the ROI, you're going to get an ROI now because it will lead to increased patients, clients, all of those things. But you're going to get an ROI down the line when it's time to exit. And the funny thing is this, right? You can exit different parts of your business. You can choose to keep the YouTube channel and sell the practice or sell the coaching company or whichever, right? And it doesn't mean, but you have all these different things that you've built. If all you do is walk in, see patients, make sure there's money in the bank account and then leave, it's not going to cut it. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 is profits. You want to make sure that your business is profitable. Now, are there businesses that don't make money that get sold? Yes, right? But chances are it's not your business, right? Okay. So it's more like tech businesses and things like that, generally speaking. Okay. So you have a practice, you have a coaching company, you have all of these things. You're even at the point where you're bringing in 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, but maybe you haven't paid attention to the size of the team you're building and the profitability of the team and all of those things. So for each new system, process, you add in, team member, you add in, your profits keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So it's time to pay attention to that. It's time to demonstrate we have healthy profits, to demonstrate we have profits growing year to year and all of those things, right? When you're ready, it's too late. So the profits is good, right? Because you have the profits, but it's also good because when you want to create a monetization event, you're ready to do that. Okay. Number three, documented processes. Okay. It is not unusual for someone to start a business, even if you've gotten to seven figures and your processes and your systems are really all in your head, jumbled up so much so that you cannot even explain them. You're like, I just know how to do this. And that's not true. There is a method you follow. There is a method to the madness. And you want to start documenting. You want to start creating SOPs. In my practice, we call it IV in a box. We want to have everything documented, and you have this one, like it's a picture, but like you have this box where everything is in it. But you want to start documenting that. What is our procedure for hiring? What is our procedure for evaluating our staff? What is our procedure for getting people door to door, like in and out of the doors? What is our procedure for this? What is our procedure for that? You want to create that. What is our procedure for training our team? What is our procedure, like in UntraMD Business School? What is our procedure for helping people get wins? What is our procedure for helping people when they're falling off? What is our procedure for like all of those things? How do we run our calls? How do we run our success groups? How do we manage and administer our Facebook group? All of those things need to be documented. One of the problems with the practice, where the lady was trying to sell it for as little as $40,000, she had nothing documented. And who's going to sit down to figure out how to get everything going, right? Okay. So that's number three. Number four, team. You want to have a stable team. You want to have it documented, like not documented, but you have the people who are getting the things done, which means for you now, what you want to start practicing is getting things done through people, not just assigning tasks, but assigning outcomes. This is the person who's in charge of making sure our schedules are full, so the doctor's schedules are optimized and we stay profitable. This is a person in charge of sales for this coaching company. And because of them, we make sure we're getting new leads. We're getting new leads every day. We're getting consult calls. We're having offers made every single day. This person is the marketing strategist, and they're the people who ensure that like our brand, we're getting in front of new audiences, our email list is growing every day, and all of that. Like you want to have people driving results, and you also want to have evidence that the business runs without you. Okay. So earlier in my career, I did a lot, like I started weaning my practice off me, if you will, where I'd work 4 days a week, then 3 days a week, then 2 days a week, then 1 day a week. Then I'll take a month off. Then I'll take 2 months off. And this is all me walking away to see how well will the system run without me. Now, if somebody wanted to acquire my practice, and remember I said I'm not selling my practice, but if someone were to acquire it, I have been away from my practice for as long as 24 months, and we grew in profitability without me. And so there's no question of, will the practice survive if I'm not there? Because there is evidence that it did really well when I was not there. Okay. So you want to have the team. So you want to start building that. Oh, I don't like working with people. I do it all by myself. You're going to shut down your business, right? You're not going to be able to sell it. You're not going to be able to hand it off. You don't even know how profitable it truly is, because maybe you're doing the roles of 5 people and you're paying yourself one salary. So you don't actually even know if you'll be profitable if you're not there, right? And so am I saying exit your business? No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you need to build a team. If you take a 1 month sabbatical, a 2 month sabbatical, that'll be just fine. And test and see, how is this working? Now, remember, if you're at a stage where you have bigger fish to fry, right? You need to work the profits. You need to build a team. So maybe you have a team that's full of people who can do tasks, but you don't have teams of people who are leaders. The first thing you're going to do is not take a sabbatical. You're going to put the things in place and then take the sabbatical to see how the team and the processes and the systems and the profits and all of that worked without you. So we're going to build this in steps. Remember, I said, this is a multi-year process. This is not something you're going to listen to this podcast episode and say, what? I'm implementing yesterday. You're going to look at it and then you're going to start building these blocks one at a time. Okay. When you are earlier in business, I compare your business to a kayak, right? Like you can flip it any way you want. You can change directions at the drop of a hat. You can do all of that. The bigger your business gets, the more it's like a cruise ship. Okay. Now, a cruise ship, you don't just flip it and it turns. This is a process to get it to turn around. Okay. So when this process is a cruise ship process, it's not a kayak process at all. So you're going to need to flip it around. It's going to take a moment to do it. But when you do it, it'll be amazing. Okay. But if you don't start today, then you'll never get done. Okay. Then number 5, the last thing I'll talk about here is really your strategic ads. And what I mean by that is there are things you add to your business because you know you want to sell it. And so you want to work on the valuation. Okay. So for instance, when you have businesses, especially, well, not especially online businesses, but when you have businesses that have a high monthly recurring revenue, the valuation is so much higher. Okay. So they use multiples of EBITDA. Well, let's just say they use multiples of profit. Okay. So let's simplify it. We say they use multiples of profit. And if they're just going based on annual revenue, and this is different per industry, so I'm just giving an example, they may say that the valuation is 2 times your annual profit. But if you have a nice monthly recurring revenue, that valuation goes from 2 times profit to 10 times profit, right? And so maybe you're running a business, and for you and for the ease of things, you have everybody paying in full. So let's say it's a coaching company, you have everybody paying in full. Now, if you're getting ready to exit, let's say you want to exit over the next 3 years, then what you begin to do is say, hey, this is now how we want people to pay. Okay, so for instance, you have $100,000 coming in every month in monthly recurring revenue. 10x that is 10 million. But if you have the same amount of money that's coming in, that comes to 1.2 million a year. What would have come in monthly recurring revenue? And it's times 2 is 2.4 million, right? So the question becomes, is 7.6 million, is that difference enough to make you do something different? And so a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll add that in. They'll add in something, either change the payment structure or they add in something that gives monthly recurring revenue. Okay, so if it's like a direct primary care practice, we're looking at monthly memberships and things like that, right? And are you going to do that in the beginning? Maybe not, right? Because the annual membership is going to create more stability. And I just want to make sure I say this so nobody says, oh, let me just go for the monthly. The monthly has its issues as well. So that's why I call this strategic ads as you get closer to wanting to exit, okay? Some other people will add a software. Like just adding a software dramatically changes the valuation of your business because what you're talking about is something that does not necessarily require more team, doesn't require more overhead, is very scalable, and all of those kind of things. So for instance, in the EntreMD world, I can decide that I want to add an app where people will go in, they get content they can't get on the podcast, they get some things that are for accountability, maybe we gamify some things and all of that. And people are just subscribing. They could do Ask a Coach, all those kind of things. And people are subscribing, by the hundreds and the thousands and the tens of thousands, right? Now, that alone, adding that massively increases the valuation of the company, okay? So I just wanted to put this out here so we can start thinking in those terms because truthfully, the right time to start thinking about this is from the beginning. It doesn't mean you implement all of them, but as you build, you'll be able to take the right building blocks and put them in the right places. Okay. So for you listening, I want to challenge you. You may never sell your business. I have never seriously considered selling any of my businesses. I have never talked to a broker. I've never done any of those things, but I have always built with the thought process that I need to build this in a way that if I wanted to sell, I have the option. Okay. If I wanted to pass it on to somebody who's not even doing what I do, I need to know that I have created the option. Okay. And because I am doing that, the businesses are healthier. They're more sustainable. They don't have a lot of fluff because I know exactly where I'm going and what I'm trying to build. Okay. So I want you to take this. I want you to think on this. This is probably one to listen to a second time and kind of workshop it where you're examining your business and auditing. As you do that, pick up a few next steps that you can take action on. And if this episode really resonated with you, one of the things I want you to do for me, which I would really appreciate it, is I want you to take this and give this episode to every physician entrepreneur in your life and say, hey, I want you to take a listen to this. You'll thank me, but you'll really thank me a decade from now. Okay. All right. Thank you for listening. Be sure to share this. You share it on social media, tag us, #EntreMD, and I'll see you on the next episode of the EntreMD podcast. If you enjoy listening to the EntreMD podcast, you have to check out the EntreMD Business School. It's the #1 business school for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. You get the coaching, the accountability, and the community you need to do the work so you can thrive. To find out if this is your best next step, book a call with my team, entremd.com/call. That's entremd.com/call. I can't wait to celebrate all the wins we can create together.